Well, having established myself as a pop star, which was great fun in the middle 60s because pop stars in Britain really did rule the globe. You only had to have one hit and you were an absolute international celebrity, and you dominated everything because Britain was already pretty big thanks to things like the James Bond movies and Mary Quant and Carnaby Street and all those things that were happening. But the hugest thing of all that came out was music, thanks to the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, everything else. We literally took over the globe, and everybody focused on London because by then everybody had moved to London anyway, which I lived near, and we were all together all the time. I mean, we were constantly in the clubs, all our friends. It was like an extension of the school experience. All my friends would go to the clubs every night, so every night we'd be sitting there with John Lennon or Jimi Hendrix or Paul McCartney or people. All of us would get together and we'd just have a great time because I never did drugs and never drank. So I was known as King Loon by Eric Burdon of The Animals because he'd never known anybody get more stoned on a glass of milk than I did. But I just was high on life and having a great time. And because I didn't do drugs, they all used me to roll joints. I used to roll joints for John Lennon in these clubs and take them on trips because LSD was the big thing. I wasn't going near it, thank you very much. So as a result, I was the guide because they knew I was a friend, I was reliable. If there was a police bust or something, I could cope with it while they were millions of miles away in their heads. So I was there being completely straight, not doing drugs, not doing drink, looking after these bizarre people. I remember once taking John Lennon to the toilet when he was on an LSD trip because he had to get there and he couldn't find his way. And he had this pee and he was gazing at his piss and saying, "Oh, that's beautiful. Look at the colours in that." And I remember thinking, if getting on an LSD trip means you look at your piss and think it's beautiful, I'm definitely not taking it. Timothy Leary, forget it, I thought, and never got involved in all that. But it was a wonderful scene. It was absolutely the centre of the universe. And with that triumph in my head, I went back to my old school, which was Charterhouse Public School, known really for Baden-Powell, the founder of the Scouts movement, and a couple of crusty old Conservative peers and MPs and Prime Ministers from hundreds of years earlier, and no celebrities of any real sparkle. I went back there and I was number one on the charts and, a pop star and driving in a groovy car and everything. And this kid came up to me with a demo tape and said, "These are friends of mine, and they've made this demo tape." And I said, fine, and took the tape. By then, I hadn't reached the air of cynicism, which I reached a few months later, which is never listen to tapes that people give you, because they all give you tapes, and you end up with hundreds of the damn things, and they're all bloody awful. But I was young and innocent, and I put it on in the car coming back, and I thought, oh, this guy's got a great voice, and they're nice little songs. So I got back to London, and I called up the contact on the tape, and said, "So what's the name of the group?" And they said, "Well, we don't actually have a name at the moment." And I said, "Well, I think it's really good. I'd like to do something with you. I'd like to record you." So we agreed that I'd record them during the school holidays. I went and met them all and talked to them and suggested ways that they could improve their writing abilities because they had lousy electric equipment that sounded really cheap and tacky. And I made them go on to acoustic stuff, which was less expensive, but also you can hear your own mistakes. You're playing on an acoustic guitar and you go slightly off key with one note. It stands out a mile. If you've got a blast of distortion, you can't spot those things. So I actually started training them how to write and how to put things together. Peter Gabriel, who was so in his shell at the time, the shyest boy I have ever met in my life, had to come out and project himself a little bit, be a bit more of a performer. Gave them the name Genesis because I thought it was the start of my production career as a series producer. So it was the genesis of something great. And that's how it all began.